It wasn't the bark. It was the silence that followed. The kind of silence that drops heavy, thick like fog before a storm. And for Logan Reed, a single dad just trying to get through another Wednesday morning with his 2-year-old daughter and a mug of reheated coffee, that silence would change everything. His retired canine partner, Ranger, a 92-pound German shepherd with scars across his muzzle and the loyalty of 10 men, stood perfectly still in the kitchen doorway. No tail wag, no head tilt, just frozen. His ears stiff, eyes locked, breath barely moving. Logan noticed it the moment he turned from a sink. Ranger never froze like that unless something was terribly wrong. At the breakfast table, little Ellie was kicking her socked feet against her booster chair, laughing with a plastic spoon in her hand. The morning light poured in through the kitchen window, highlighting the golden curls falling in messy bunches over her forehead. She was halfway through a bowl of oatmeal, banana cinnamon her favorite. Across from her stood Dana, their full-time nanny for the past 6 months. Early 30s, Midwestern sweet, soft-spoken, always on time. She wore her usual pale pink hoodie and blue jeans, her back to Ranger as she coaxed another spoonful toward Ellie's mouth. "Come on, honey," Dana cooed. "Just one more bite for the princess." Ranger erupted. Not with a growl, not with a bark, with a full-blown primal lunge. The sound of nails on tile shot through the kitchen. Logan didn't have time to yell before Ranger clamped down on Dana's forearm, sending the spoon clattering across the counter. Ellie screamed. Dana shrieked in shock, stumbling backward as Ranger held her arm tight, but didn't shake or tear. Just firm, unmoving, controlled. Ranger out. Logan's voice cracked with the kind of command only war veterans use. Out now. Ranger released. Dana crumpled to the floor, clutching her arm. Blood seeped through her sleeve. Ellie cried louder. For a moment, everything was still again, except for the thudding of Logan's heart and the high-pitched wail of a frightened child. He rushed to Ellie first, scooping her out of the chair. She clung to his hoodie, tears soaking into the fabric. Then he turned to Ranger, who had backed up near the pantry. The dog wasn't snarling, wasn't pacing. He was just staring at the spoon on the floor. What the hell just happened? Logan breathed. Dana's voice trembled. "Your dog attacked me. He went crazy. I didn't do anything. I swear." The bowl of oatmeal sat untouched on the table. But Logan's eyes followed the arc of the fallen spoon and noticed something odd. A strange pinkish smear, not the color of banana or cinnamon. He didn't say anything. He just stared at it. Outside, a neighbor had already called 911. Logan could hear the distant whoop of sirens coming up Maple Street, and all he could think was, Ranger's never bitten anyone, not even in combat, not unless there was a reason. The living room was a scene of chaos. A uniformed paramedic wrapped Dana's arm in gauze while another EMT tried to calm Ellie, who wouldn't stop crying unless she was in Logan's arms. 2 officers stood near the door, one of them from Logan's old department. They were careful, polite, but firm. "We're going to need to take the dog for a behavioral hold, Logan. He's not a stray. He's a decorated K9. You know that," Logan said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I know, but he bit a civilian, and it's procedure." Ranger sat calmly near the fireplace, his eyes never leaving Ellie. He didn't growl when they approached. He didn't resist when Logan clipped on the lead. But before he stepped outside, the dog turned his head back toward the kitchen table as if something there still needed attention. As they loaded Ranger into the back of the animal control van, Logan felt a knot form deep in his gut. Something about this wasn't right. Dana had been with them for 6 months. Ellie loved her. She had no prior, no issues. She passed all the background checks, but Ranger didn't trust easily, and he never snapped without cause. Before the van door closed, Logan leaned in and whispered, "I'm going to figure this out, buddy. I promise." The van drove off. Ellie was still sniffling on the couch, hugging her stuffed turtle, and that's when Logan remembered the spoon. He walked into the kitchen, heart thumping, and picked it up gently with a paper towel. He eyed the bowl. Nothing looked wrong, but the smell. It was off. Something metallic, faint, but sharp, lingered in the steam. He scraped the smallest amount of oatmeal into a Ziploc bag. Not for the police, for someone he trusted more. If this story has you on edge, don't forget to subscribe to Heroes for Animals for more gripping real-life inspired tales of courage, instinct, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. Every view supports the stories that deserve to be told. 2 hours later, Logan sat in his truck outside a veterinary toxicologist's private lab. Dr. Marlene Jacobs had been with the Army. They'd crossed paths overseas. If anyone could run quiet tests with no red tape, it was her. She took the sample without questions. She just raised an eyebrow when he told her it came from a toddler's breakfast. "That's not what oatmeal's supposed to smell like," she muttered, already prepping a slide. Logan didn't stay. He didn't want Ellie out of his sight. He drove home, his eyes scanning the road like the old days, watching rearview mirrors, watching corners, watching everything. At home, Ellie napped in her crib. Dana had gone to urgent care for follow-up, texting Logan with claims of trauma and asking if she'd be fired. He didn't answer. He didn't know how to answer. All he knew was Ranger wasn't crazy. And maybe the question wasn't why did Ranger bite Dana? Maybe the real question was, what exactly was in that oatmeal? The morning after the incident, the house felt too quiet. Logan Reed sat at the kitchen counter, staring at the untouched bowl of banana cinnamon oatmeal, still sealed inside a plastic evidence bag. The scent had faded, but something about it still twisted his stomach. He hadn't slept. Not really. Not with his daughter clinging to him like a koala most of the night. And definitely not with Ranger locked up in an unfamiliar kennel labeled as a dangerous dog. He didn't believe it. Not for 1 second. He poured himself a cup of black coffee and glanced at the framed photo near the fridge. It was taken 3 years ago in Mosul. Ranger, younger and leaner, sat by Logan's boot, desert dust in his fur, a purple heart patch sewn into the handler's vest. The bond between them had been forged under fire, literally. That dog had pulled Logan out of a collapsed building during a drone strike. There was no way in hell he attacked someone out of nowhere, but official paperwork had already been filed. The bite was classified as level 3, deep puncture with bleeding, but no nerve or tendon damage. Still, that was enough for the county to issue a 10-day quarantine order, pending psychological evaluation by an animal behaviorist. Logan had read the form twice. It didn't say suspected poison defense anywhere, just unprovoked aggression. That phrase dug under his skin. Later that morning, Logan stood outside the county animal shelter on Ridgeway Drive. The facility was old, a mix of concrete and chain link fencing with a faint smell of bleach and wet fur in the air. He signed in at the front desk, flashed his veteran's ID, and waited for clearance. When they finally let him back to see Ranger, the dog didn't bark, didn't whine. He simply stood up, ears alert, tail low but steady, and pressed his weight into Logan's legs like a silent question. "I know, buddy," Logan murmured. "We're going to fix this. I promise." The shelter tech, a young woman in her 20s with a sleeve of tattoos, hovered nearby. "He's actually been really calm," she said, almost apologetically. "Didn't growl at intake, ate a little, but he hasn't touched his water today." Logan turned to her. "Can I give him something from home? A toy? His blanket?" "Technically, yes, but you'd have to check it in. Policy." He nodded. She hesitated. "Look, off the record, most dogs don't act like this unless something's up. We've had aggressive cases before. They're usually tense, reactive, even in the kennel. But your guy, he's different." Logan gave a tight smile. "Yeah, he always has been." He knelt beside Ranger, scratching gently behind his ear. The dog leaned into the touch. But Logan's eyes weren't just on his dog. He was watching the way Ranger occasionally looked toward the far wall of the shelter, toward the sound of a whining puppy behind a gate. Still protective, still alert, even under stress. Not a violent dog, not a loose cannon. Something had triggered him, and Logan was going to find out what. By mid-afternoon, Logan's phone buzzed with a number he hadn't seen in years. Dr. Marlene Jacobs. He answered instantly. "Logan here." Her voice was low, serious. "I ran a GCMS scan on the oatmeal sample, and there are trace amounts of ethylene glycol." Logan's stomach dropped. "That's antifreeze." "Yes. Very small amount, but consistent with early-stage poisoning." The kind that wouldn't kill instantly, especially not in a small dose. But repeated ingestion in a child? Kidney failure within days. Logan went completely still. Ellie could have died. What about exposure? How recent? I'd say within an hour of the sample being taken, it was fresh, still warm when you dropped it off. He exhaled. Can you write this up? I need something formal. I can, but you need to be careful. If this goes to court or CPS gets involved, you'll need more than a toxicology report. You'll need motive. You'll need proof someone put it in there intentionally. Logan closed his eyes. Thank you, Marlene. He hung up, the room spinning. This wasn't a theory anymore. Ranger hadn't lost his mind. He had saved Ellie's life. That night, Logan replayed everything step by step in his head. Dana had arrived early, like usual. She made the oatmeal herself. Ellie sat in her booster, while Logan rinsed bottles in the sink. Nothing about it had felt suspicious. Nothing had triggered him until Ranger acted. So, he did what any father with a hunch and military experience would do. He checked the nanny cam. He'd installed it in the hallway months ago, mostly to monitor the front door. It barely caught any of the kitchen. But maybe, just maybe, there was a glimpse. He fast-forwarded through hours of footage, eyes blurry, jaw clenched. Most of it was routine. Dana putting on Ellie's shoes, Dana checking her phone, Dana singing nursery rhymes. But then, around 7:38 a.m., he saw her pull something from her purse. A small vial unmarked. She uncapped it, held it low to her waist, and stirred something into the oatmeal bowl. No label, no hesitation. Logan leaned closer. You couldn't see what it was. But you didn't need to. He paused the frame, snapped a screenshot, and saved it. That was enough. Enough to file a report. Enough to protect his daughter. The next morning, Logan sat across from a detective at the station. Detective Erica Dunn, mid-40s, crisp button-down, silver hoop earrings. She'd known Logan from back when he was on patrol. You sure it was ethylene glycol? I have the report. And I have video of Dana adding something to the oatmeal. I don't know the motive. I don't know why, but Ranger reacted. That's what saved Ellie. Erica leaned back, arms crossed. You realize how heavy this accusation is, right? Attempted poisoning of a child. That's not a domestic dispute. That's federal territory. I'm not accusing yet. I'm reporting suspicious behavior. My daughter's safety comes first. She nodded slowly. Let me take this to the DA. Meanwhile, you keep your daughter close. And don't tip your hand. Logan stood, fists clenched. Ranger stays in quarantine for now, until the bike case is officially reclassified. But if your evidence checks out, we'll have grounds to lift it. As Logan walked out of the precinct, a gust of wind rushed down the street. He paused beside his truck, looking at the reflection of the station in the window. His life had shifted overnight from pancakes and Paw Patrol to toxicology reports and surveillance footage. He wasn't just a dad anymore. He was a soldier again, on a mission, and someone was going to answer for what they tried to do to his little girl. The waiting room at Pine County Pediatric Clinic smelled faintly of disinfectant and crayons. Ellie sat on the exam table in a yellow t-shirt with cartoon ducks across the chest, legs swinging, a grape lollipop clutched in one hand. Her cheeks were flushed, but she wasn't crying. Not anymore. She watched a nurse take her blood with wide, uncertain eyes. Logan stood next to her, arms folded, doing everything he could not to show what was eating him alive inside. The pediatrician, Dr. Avery Feldman, entered with a calm but deliberate pace. Late 50s, bow tie soft-spoken and sharp as a tack. I ran the full panel like you asked, he said gently. Ellie's kidneys are functioning normally, but her creatinine levels are slightly elevated. Logan's heart stalled. What does that mean? It means there's early stress, not failure, but it supports what you told me about the antifreeze exposure. Logan exhaled slowly. So, she ingested it. Yes, likely a small amount, possibly multiple times, or just enough to register physiologically. Ellie licked her lollipop again, unaware her life was being measured in enzyme levels and chemical traces. Logan's hands curled into fists at his sides. Do you want to file a hospital report? The doctor asked. If this turns into a legal case, medical records will matter. I already gave the DA a full statement, but yes, log everything. Dr. Feldman scribbled something on the chart. In the meantime, push fluids. We'll retest her labs in 48 hours, and if she spikes a fever, you call me. Any hour, any day. Logan nodded. Thank you, Doc, for taking this seriously. Feldman didn't smile. A child this young doesn't get accidental antifreeze in her system. This is serious by default. That afternoon, Logan pulled into a quiet side street near the edge of town and parked outside a small veterinary rehab center tucked between a yoga studio and a dog groomer. The place was modest, but clean. White siding, a narrow front porch, and a hand-painted sign that read, Kindred Spirit Animal Wellness, Behavioral Evaluation, and Rehabilitation. Inside, Ranger sat on a thick foam mat with a slow-blinking tabby cat curled near his flank. He didn't seem anxious, just watchful. Logan watched through the glass as a woman in her 40s crouched nearby, tossing bits of dried liver in a circle around the dog. Approach, pause, release, she said gently. Ranger didn't move. The woman stood and walked toward the door. You must be Logan Reed, she said as she shook his hand. I am. You're the evaluator. Melinda Ka, behaviorist, 20 years. Formerly worked with military handlers at Fort Benning. Now I specialize in trauma cases and, she glanced at Ranger, misunderstood heroes. Logan allowed himself the first real smile he'd had in days. They sat in a small consultation room while Melinda flipped through a report. Ranger is alert, responsive to verbal commands, and non-reactive to unfamiliar people, even after the incident. No compulsive tendencies, no prey drive beyond standard patrol dog training. Honestly, I see no evidence of aggression. Logan leaned forward. So the bite was what? Protective instinct. Melinda tapped the file. Exactly. He was guarding a vulnerable individual, your daughter. Based on your timeline and the target of the bite, it was a controlled response. No mauling, no secondary attack, just a warning with teeth. Logan rubbed his hands over his face. I needed to hear that. The county's got him marked as unpredictable. They're wrong, and I'll testify under oath. He looked through the viewing window again. Ranger was now lying down beside a child-sized stuffed bear. He's not unpredictable, Logan said quietly. He's the most reliable soul I know. Back home, Logan checked the mailbox and found an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed. No handwriting, just a message. He's not wrong. Look inside her purse. She was never supposed to stay this long. Logan stared at the note, heart pounding. It had to be about Dana. He made sure Ellie was asleep in her toddler bed, then went into the hall closet and pulled out a small storage bin. After Dana was transported to urgent care, she'd left in a hurry, her pink hoodie on the hook, her purse shoved under the umbrella stand. He hadn't touched it, not until now. The bag was normal-looking, faux leather, overstuffed like most mom-style purses. Inside, receipts from Target, half a granola bar, gum, an expired Metro bus card from Chicago, and a prescription bottle. It wasn't hers. Name, Malene Carter. Drug, fluoxetine, prescribed 2 years ago. Instructions, 1 daily for anxiety and depressive episodes. Pharmacy, Northside Women's Correctional Facility. Logan froze. He looked at the name again. Carter, not Dana. He reached into the bottom of the bag again and pulled out a folded sheet of newsprint. It was brittle and creased. An old copy of a story from an Illinois newspaper. The headline read, Child Neglect Case Ends in Sentencing. Mother Accused of Deliberate Undefeating. The mugshot showed a woman with sunken eyes and matted hair. Not Dana. Malene. Same cheekbones, same nose. He grabbed his phone and typed the name into the county records database. A minute later, her file loaded. Malene Carter, 35. Released early on supervised parole after serving 18 months. Current location, unknown. Donna Istadama. She'd been living under a false identity, and she had a history of child abuse. Logan stood at the kitchen sink, gripping the edge of the counter. He felt like the air had been knocked out of him. This woman had been feeding his daughter, living in his home, taking Ellie to the park, bathing her. And all this time, she was hiding who she really was. He called Detective Erica Dunn immediately. "We have a bigger problem," he said. "The woman in my house wasn't Dana Blake. Her name is Malene Carter." There was a long pause on the other end. "Are you certain?" she asked. "I have her pill bottle and a newspaper article from her purse. I'm sending you pictures now." "This changes everything," she said. "If she used a false identity while working with a minor, it's a felony. If she has a prior for child endangerment and is now tied to a possible poisoning attempt, the DA is going to come down hard." Logan's voice was flat. "Good. Where is she now?" "I don't know. She said she was staying with a cousin for recovery, but that could be a lie." "We'll issue a bolo immediately." "Logan, don't go looking for her yourself." He didn't respond. He just stared down the hallway toward his daughter's room. The weight of guilt settled like concrete in his chest. He had let someone into their lives, someone dangerous. And it took Ranger to notice what he couldn't. The next morning, Logan visited Ranger again. Melinda greeted him at the front. "We got the behavioral report submitted to the county. With your tox results and the evidence you've provided, they're moving to clear Ranger." Logan knelt beside the dog and whispered, "We're almost there, buddy. You were right all along." Ranger licked his knuckles and nudged his face gently. And for the first time in days, Logan felt a small flicker of hope. He would protect Ellie. He would clear Ranger's name. And he would make damn sure the world knew that the so-called dangerous dog wasn't the threat at all. But the woman who tried to smile while poisoning his child, she was still out there. 2 days after discovering the truth about Dana, Logan found himself pacing the carpet in front of Ellie's crib. It was just after 2 a.m., the room dimly lit by a nightlight shaped like a sleepy owl, casting soft shadows across the walls. Ellie was fast asleep, curled into a ball with her blanket tucked under her chin, her thumb near her mouth. Logan couldn't rest. Not while she was still vulnerable. Not while Malene Carter, the woman who'd fed his daughter poisoned oatmeal and lied about her entire identity, was still out there. Every creak in the house made him tense. He held Ranger's K9 vest in one hand, the one with the faded American flag patch and retired "Do Not Pet" stitched across the chest. It still smelled faintly of cedarwood and dog fur, and it reminded him of one unshakable truth. Ranger hadn't failed. He had. By mid-morning, Detective Erica Dunn called with an update. She didn't show up at her cousin's. She used a fake name on the urgent care intake forms. Her phone's off. No credit card activity. Logan's jaw clenched. So she vanished. "We've issued a bolo across 3 states and flagged her alias at all major hospitals. Someone's going to see her. It's only a matter of time." "What about the DA?" Logan asked. "Any movement? He's reviewing your nanny cam footage with the lab results and her criminal record. He's preparing a case. Attempted poisoning of a minor. Identity fraud. Violation of parole terms. She was on supervised release. How the hell did she pass a background check? Private agency out of Kansas." The name change slipped through because it wasn't registered at the federal level. She legally changed her name in Arkansas 2 months after release and moved west. She's not the first to game the system. Logan stared out the window. So, she could have been anywhere with any kid. "And this time she picked yours," Erica said. Her voice dropped. "We'll find her, Logan. Just stay safe and keep your daughter close." That afternoon, Logan walked into the county animal shelter and signed the release forms with a steady hand. Ranger was coming home. Melinda Kane had gone to bat for him during the hearing. Between her behavioral evaluation and the toxicology report, the committee voted unanimously to lift the quarantine. The words "unprovoked aggression" were officially stricken from his file. When the kennel door opened, Ranger didn't charge or leap. He simply padded forward, head low, tail swaying, and placed his muzzle gently into Logan's palm. "I missed you too," Logan whispered. As they walked back toward the truck, several shelter workers gathered at the entrance. One of them clapped softly. Another gave a little cheer. Even the receptionist, who'd once called Ranger scary big, smiled and handed Logan a dog treat. "Glad he's going home," she said. "He's not like the others. He knew something. We all saw it. Logan buckled Ranger into the back seat and looked at him in the rearview mirror. Time to finish this. Back at home, Logan had a plan. He called his buddy Marcus Hughes, a forensic IT guy who used to work cybercrimes in Atlanta before opening his own consulting firm. Marcus owed him more than a few favors. "I need to trace a digital footprint," Logan said over the phone. "Her real name is Malene Carter. She's got to be using burner phones, but maybe she slipped up. Wi-Fi pings, login patterns, anything. Send me everything you've got. Address history, old aliases, any social handles, photos." Logan compiled it into a secure folder and sent it over within the hour. Marcus' response came just before dinner. "Got something." Logan opened the email and saw a map marked with GPS pings near the state line, about 40 miles east. Small motel, gas stations, a roadside diner. All logged in the last 36 hours under a prepaid internet plan tied to an alias. Am Blake. She was still close. Too close. That night, Logan sat in the living room with Ranger curled up beside him, Ellie asleep upstairs. He stared at a manila folder labeled Carter case, full of everything he gathered. The nanny cam screenshots, the toxicology report, the prescription bottle, the newspaper clipping. It wasn't enough just to hand it to police. He wanted her found. He wanted answers. Why Ellie? Why now? And how many other families had she lied to? He opened his laptop and pulled up the original arrest report from Malene's 2017 case in Illinois. Pages of details, malnutrition, neglect, a child taken into state custody. A judge's note that Malene exhibited narcissistic tendencies and detachment from consequence. But one sentence chilled him. Subject displayed no emotional distress regarding child's removal. Expressed belief that the child was the problem and would be better off with others. That same cold smile she used when feeding Ellie. Logan shut the laptop with a click. The worst monsters didn't hide in shadows. They blended into normalcy, into story time and bubble baths and nursery rhymes. The next day, Detective Dunn called again. She was spotted last night at a gas station near Willow Creek. Paid cash, but the clerk recognized her photo. She bought protein bars and baby wipes. No kid with her. Logan's blood ran cold. She's preparing for something. Isolation, hiding out. We've deployed local units. Her face is all over the highway alerts now. If you find her first, you call us, Erica said flatly. You do not approach. She's unstable. And if she feels cornered. Logan didn't answer because deep down, he knew he would approach. He had to. Later that evening, Ellie spiked a low-grade fever. Not serious, just enough to make her clingy and lethargic. Logan called Dr. Feldman. Could it be from the exposure, he asked, holding Ellie as she dozed on his shoulder. Possibly, Feldman said. Her labs showed early renal stress. Push fluids, keep her cool. Bring her in first thing tomorrow if she worsens. Logan held his daughter tighter. He couldn't lose her. He wouldn't. Ranger stood at the hallway entrance, watching silently, ears forward. The dog hadn't taken his eyes off Ellie since he'd come home, refusing to eat until she'd smiled at him, sleeping outside her door, shadowing her every step. That dog knew more than any human ever would, and Logan would trust him with everything. Around midnight, Logan was jolted awake by Ranger's growl. A low, chest-deep sound. Controlled, focused. He grabbed his pistol from the drawer and crept toward the back door. Ranger stayed low, pacing beside him. Logan peered out the kitchen window and froze. A shadow moved beyond the fence line. A woman, blonde, hooded, heading toward the shed. Logan's pulse slammed through his ears. He tapped a quick text to Detective Dunn. She's here at my house, alone. Seconds later, he crept out the side door, Ranger tight at his side. They rounded the back corner silently. Malene stood near the shed door, flashlight in hand. Something clutched to her chest. A bottle? A cloth? Logan didn't wait to find out. Freeze, he shouted. Hands where I can see them. She spun, eyes wild, skin pale under the porch light. It's not what you think. Ranger launched forward with a snap, not to bite, but to block. He stood between her and Logan, baring teeth just enough to freeze her in place. Malene's voice trembled. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to help. I came back to explain. Shut up, Logan growled. You poisoned my kid and lied your way into my home. I didn't mean to. Ranger let out a sharp bark, silencing her. The sound of tires crunching gravel broke the standoff. Red and blue lights spilled over the lawn as two cruisers pulled up. Detective Dunn stepped out with her hand on her holster. Step away from the shed, Malene. Now. Malene dropped the bottle and raised her hands. Within seconds, she was cuffed and read her rights. Logan stood in the glow of the squad car, breathing hard, every muscle in his body on fire. Ranger sat beside him, calm now, gaze steady. And for the first time in days, Logan whispered the words that had been caught in his throat. You saved her life, boy. You really did. By sunrise, the air in Logan's house finally felt breathable again. Malene Carter was in custody. Ellie was safe in her crib, and Ranger, the one accused of being dangerous, now lay stretched out in front of the fireplace, snoring like a freight train after days of duty. Logan sat on the edge of the couch, rubbing the ache behind his eyes. His adrenaline had finally crashed. But sleep wouldn't come. Not yet. His phone buzzed every few minutes. Text updates from Erica, confirmation that Malene had been booked, requests from local reporters sniffing around the story. He ignored them all. Instead, he opened the footage, the full file from the nanny cam. He hadn't reviewed everything, just the clip that showed Malene stirring something into Ellie's oatmeal. But now that she was caught, he wanted to understand the whole timeline, every moment, every clue he'd missed. The footage started 2 weeks ago. Logan watched her walk in each morning like clockwork. Pink hoodie, purse slung across her shoulder, coffee in hand. She sang nursery rhymes, bounced Ellie on her hip, folded laundry, made snacks. At a glance, she looked like the perfect caregiver. But something always felt off. In one clip, she stared out the window for over 10 minutes while Ellie played with blocks behind her. In another, she whispered to herself while washing dishes, not singing, whispering. And then there was the moment 4 days before the attack, when she reached into her purse and carefully opened a small white envelope. She tapped the contents into a measuring spoon and stirred it into Ellie's juice. Logan's stomach turned. He'd been right there in the kitchen, answering an email feet away, and he hadn't seen a thing. She was good at hiding in plain sight, but Ranger had seen everything. Later that morning, Logan met with Detective Erica Dunn at the station. Her real name's all over the system now, she said, sliding a folder across the table. We're pulling her full psychological history. There's a record from Illinois. Post-conviction therapy. 3 court-mandated sessions. Then she stopped showing up. Logan skimmed the document. Words like attachment disorder, paranoia, and resentment toward maternal roles jumped off the page. She hated mothers, Logan muttered. Erica nodded. Or maybe she hated the idea of what she thought a mother should be. People like her don't need a clear reason. They just need proximity to a victim. What was she doing in our town? She answered a job post through a third-party domestic staffing agency in Kansas. Background check came back clean under the name Dana Blake, but she changed her ID in Arkansas after release. New social, new driver's license, even a new resume. She forged 2 reference letters. Logan leaned back in his chair, jaw clenched. So, she was planning this. Erica didn't answer right away. Instead, she pulled out a second file. This was in her motel room. Inside was a worn composition notebook. The front read, M. Blake Daily Notes. Logan flipped it open. Inside were pages filled with strange diary-style entries. Ellie trusts me now. She doesn't cry when I put her down for naps anymore. Logan always leaves at 8:15. The dog watches. He doesn't blink. He knows I'm not the bad one. They never saw what I did for her. This time, I'll do it right. This one's better. This one's clean. The writing became erratic toward the end. Crossed out words, shaky lines, sketches of cribs, children's hands, a dog's face with eyes scratched out. Logan shut the notebook. He felt like vomiting. Back home, he knelt beside Ranger and pressed his forehead to the dog's. You saw through her. Ranger wagged his tail, slow and steady. then nuzzled his muzzle under Logan's arm like it was nothing. Like he hadn't spent days locked up, like he hadn't saved a life, just doing his job. But Logan knew better. Later that day, Erica called with a final update. DA's filed formal charges. 4 counts: attempted poisoning of a minor, identity fraud, endangering the welfare of a child, and violation of parole. Bonds denied. She's not going anywhere. Logan closed his eyes and nodded. Thank you. We're also launching a multi-state review of the domestic placement agencies she might have passed through. If there are other families, God help them. Erica paused. You should know something else. In the motel room fridge, we found a second container of oatmeal. Same brand, same topping, same antifreeze trace, labeled with Ellie's name. She was planning to do it again. Logan's stomach twisted. She didn't stop because of guilt. She stopped because Ranger got in the way. The next day, the local paper printed the story. Retired K-9 hero exposes poisoning plot against toddler. The article included a photo of Ranger sitting alert in front of the county shelter just before his release. The story hit every local news station by sundown. Logan's phone blew up with calls from neighbors, former colleagues, strangers across the country. Some just wanted to say thank you. Others offered to donate to Ranger's care. A local elementary school asked if he and Ranger would visit to talk about safety and animal heroes. A local vet offered a free health plan for life. A bakery sent over a basket of dog treats. And for once, Logan didn't feel like the world was tilting sideways. For once, things felt safe. That weekend, Logan took Ellie and Ranger to a small park by the river. It was a breezy Saturday afternoon. Children played on the swings. Parents chatted over picnic blankets. The smell of grilled hot dogs drifted in from a nearby food truck. Ellie ran through the grass with her stuffed turtle in one hand and Ranger trotting beside her like a furry shadow. Logan sat on a bench and just watched. Watched his daughter laugh. Watched the dog, who never stopped protecting her. A woman approached him from the side. Early 30s, her own little boy in tow. Are you Logan Reed? She asked. I am. I just wanted to say, I saw your story. What you and that dog did, what he did, that's real courage. Logan smiled. He's the real hero. The woman looked at Ranger. He saved her life. Yeah, Logan said, voice thick. And probably mine, too. As they walked back to the truck, Logan caught Ellie whispering something to Ranger. Good boy. I love you. Ranger licked her hand. And Logan knew, no matter what darkness they'd walked through, they'd come out stronger on the other side, together. 2 weeks later, the house on Sycamore Street felt like a different place. The tension had lifted. The air smelled like cinnamon muffins and baby lotion again. Ellie was giggling more, sleeping better. Logan had started drinking coffee from his mug instead of carrying it from room to room. Half full, forgotten. Even the creak in the hallway floorboards didn't startle him anymore. But the biggest shift was this. He trusted peace again. And he owed it all to a dog most people would have labeled dangerous, unpredictable, even disposable. Instead, Ranger had proven he was something more, something irreplaceable. It was a warm Wednesday morning when Logan got the call from the district attorney's office. Malene Carter entered a guilty plea, the DA said. All counts, no trial. Logan was stunned. Why? She read the behaviorist testimony, the toxicology results, the footage, your statement, the fact that a dog saw through her when nobody else did. I think she realized she couldn't outrun it this time. What's the sentence? 25 years, no parole for at least 15. Logan didn't speak right away. He wasn't a vengeful man, but justice mattered. And this time, the system got it right. He looked down at Ranger, who was lying in a sunbeam near the back door, eyes half closed, but alert. She won't ever hurt another kid, Logan said softly. The DA replied, that's thanks to your partner. You should be proud. I am. Later that week, Logan stood in the town square, shoulder to shoulder with local officers, first responders, neighbors, and more than a few curious onlookers. The mayor had called it an informal community thank you event, but it felt more like a hero's welcome. There were booths handing out dog toys and lemonade. Kids wore stickers that said, K9 Save Lives. A local coffee shop even sold a special drink called the Ranger Blend, a dark roast with a hint of cinnamon. Logan stood off to the side with Ranger beside him, the dog wearing a brand new vest with a gold embroidered patch. Hero, retired canine. Then came the mayor's announcement. For valor, instinct, and unwavering protection of an innocent child, we proudly recognize Ranger as an honorary protector of Pine County. The crowd clapped. Ranger barked once, tail wagging, ears up. Ellie, now holding a small bouquet of sunflowers, walked up with Logan and handed it to the mayor, who smiled and gave her a hug. Then she turned and hugged Ranger. He licked her ear, and she squealed. The camera shutters went wild. After the ceremony, people came up one by one. Some just wanted to pet Ranger. Others shared stories, how they'd seen signs of abuse before and wished they'd had a Ranger of their own to catch it. One older man, a veteran with deep scars across his forearms, said simply, "I worked with dogs in Nam. They saved more lives than we ever gave them credit for. Don't ever let anyone tell you he's just a pet." Logan nodded, voice caught in his throat. "I won't." That night, as Ellie slept soundly upstairs, Logan sat on the back porch with Ranger at his feet and a cold beer in his hand. The stars stretched wide above them. The porch light glowed softly against the wood. The breeze carried the scent of honeysuckle and cut grass. He pulled out the notebook Erica had returned to him, Malene's daily journal. He opened it one last time, reading the words that once chilled him. The dog watches. He doesn't blink. He knows. Logan looked down at Ranger. "You knew all along, didn't you?" The dog looked up, blinking slowly, and rested his chin on Logan's boot. Not a guard dog, not a weapon. A guardian. Logan smiled. The notebook wouldn't haunt him anymore. It was going in the fire pit tomorrow. Some stories didn't deserve to be preserved. A week later, Logan installed a second nanny cam, not because he expected danger, but because he never wanted to rely on blind trust again. He also took a part-time role teaching K9 response at the local academy, a quiet way to pay it forward. He brought Ranger along, and the recruits hung on every move the big shepherd made. They asked about the case. Logan never gave details, just said, "He saved my family." That was enough. In early spring, Logan and Ellie took a short road trip to visit Logan's sister in the mountains. They hiked, fished, and watched fireflies in the evening. Ranger chased squirrels and guarded the cabin door like it was his new mission. On the drive home, Ellie fell asleep in her car seat, holding Ranger's old collar like a stuffed animal. Logan glanced at her in the mirror and felt something tighten in his chest. Not fear, gratitude. Not because the danger was over, but because they had survived it together. Now, months later, the house had new routines. Ellie liked feeding Ranger his breakfast, one scoop at a time. She'd sing her version of the alphabet while doing it, getting stuck somewhere around Q, and just looping back to A. Ranger didn't mind. Logan had added a new plaque to the wall above the fireplace. Ranger, loyal always, protector, partner, friend. And on quiet mornings, when the sunlight hit just right, Logan would find Ranger lying at Ellie's bedroom door like a sentinel made of muscle and instinct and love. Nothing would get past him. Not this time. Not ever again. To everyone who followed this journey, thank you for walking beside Logan, Ranger, and little Ellie through their story. Sometimes the strongest alarms don't come from sirens. They come from silence. From a dog refusing to blink. From a growl that saves a life. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed an animal sense something humans missed? Or maybe you've seen a pet become a hero in ways no one expected. Let us know in the comments below. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be shared, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes the ones who can't speak still have the loudest voices of all.